Am revenit în direct. Care sunt perspectivele economice pentru România, pentru Europa Centrală și de Est, dar și pentru întreaga lume în actualul context geopolitic actual? Alături de mine este Luis COSTA, Global Head of Emerging Markets Strategy la Citibank, Banca Globală și Cooperațiune în România. Luis, thank you very much for your presence here.
A pleasure.
You know Romania since 20 years ago, okay? You started here in this region. You are from Brazil, but you work for a global bank, Citibank. How is Romania doing right now? And if you compare with 20 years ago?
Wow, it's a great question. Well, the movie is definitely positive from the growth European integration perspective, right? I mean, Romania has been one important recipient of EU transfer funds over the last, decades, right? So it definitely gave an important boost to infrastructure sectors, and we see this, right? I mean, and now today that I'm spending the day in Bucharest, so you can definitely see the effects.
This
right?
is not first time in Bucharest.
Definitely not the first time. Definitely not
when
the first.
Was the last time you were here in Bucharest?
Oh, I'll come every year.
Every year.
Come every year. Yeah, every year. Every time they ask me, I'm happy to step
To
on the
be
flight.
here.
Yeah, but it's been a great, an important movie. I mean, it's important that we have to look at this positive growth EU transfer investment movie from the standpoint of the market background. The markets, I mean, are asking now. They are focusing more and more on fundamentals, right? It's not only growth fundamentals, but fiscal fundamentals, right? Current account developments, and Central European economies, they are now, together with other emerging markets economies, but they have now basically to shape up to prepare for a new economy, right? I mean, a lot more focus on tech, a lot more focus on the services side as well, right? I mean, departing from the traditional manufacturing, right? Which is, is in a down cycle for many years, right? So, and then I think that's the challenge Romania and other Central European peers have now.
But look, can you replace the manufacture, okay, with other sector? And which sector? Is this a question for all the region?
Absolutely. No, you can't. But I mean, I think that there are three important drivers, in my view, for Central Europe. One is the new economy, but it's AI, right? It's AI tech, right? How to position in this environment, via can be data centers, which is something that many Asian economies are now.
I know, but we don't have.
Of course, no,
cheap energy.
Exactly, we are going through that. The second is the EV sector, right? I mean, which is something that we will continue. We will continue to expand. Of course, it's competing now at a European scale. It's competing with China, which is China supplies. But there are levels of partnership, right? Look at what's happening in Hungary, right? Hungary is the European headquarters of BYD, right? So that means better FDI levels. That means something, right?
But if you look at the macroeconomic indicator for Hungary, from the last 10 years. All the indicators are down.
They are down. They are down.
Romanian, it's up.
They are down. But FDI-wise, I mean, the FDI game is a long-term game, right? There are many aspects that actually drove Hungarian capital formation down, right? But I think that there is one interesting aspect that they differentiate themselves quite a lot is how diverse the FDI product-wise, how diverse and sector-wise, how diverse the FDI has been, and jurisdiction-wise as well, right? I mean, not only focus on the integration with Europe, but also, dealing with Asia more. But I think that definitely kind of, it's expected to pay off. In the case of Romania, as I said, I mean, 3 points, right? So AI tech, EV manufacturing, integration with other areas, and don't forget the integration in Europe, and defense. I think that this is absolutely key because and this is.
But we don't have enough capacity, or even we don't have capacity.
No, this is brand new. This is brand new for many European economies, right? This is brand new, but I mean, this is a reality.
But do you think this, let's say, huge investment in defense, okay, can let's say, revive the growth in, let's say, Romanian and Central and Eastern Europe, and especially in Germany?
I do believe that, you know, the way European fiscal story is shaping up, and then we have to go back, it's not only Central Europe, right? It's Germany, right? It's EU budget, right? We're having the safe mechanism, right? You're having different mechanisms here. They are allowing some the escape clauses in the budget, so they are allowing for some fiscal widening on the back of higher investments on the defense side. What European jurisdictions need to do now, and I know it's brand new, it's not something that, you know, we will come up, you know, at a snap of the finger, but they need to create, you know, somehow a domestic industry that can, you know, provide or engineer growth and capitalize on whatever budget expansion we are having towards the defense sector, right? Instead of buying abroad. I know it's complicated. It's a much more complex topic, right? We're not expecting Romania to produce aircraft.
To be in the front of the defense.
Exactly. But there are ways. I think we've been interacting with, you know, Central European leaders for the past couple of months. I mean, on this topic, and a lot is being done.
For the next year, 2026, what are the challenges for Romania? From your point of view, because you know Romania since 20 years ago. You are not new on this country.
Yeah. What is happening in the region, and again, it's a regional effect, right? Fiscal gaps are getting wider, right?
Okay.
That's what happened over the past, you know, 3-4 years. Right?
I know, but
they're getting wider. So I mean, and many of these economies haven't been punished enough.
Okay.
Right? What we call the bond vigilantes seem to be on vacation.
Yeah. Why? Because the interest rates. Let's discuss the case of the Romania. Because the interest rate is high. It's higher than the European Union or the other country. The currency is stable. Why? Why?
Well, you mentioned the currency regime that in a way, you know, that was challenged during the political crisis here, not challenged again. I mean, offshore investors, they do accept that, even though there are still many discussions in terms of the fair valuation for the lei. But I mean, the question why? I think that's, I mean, because we are in a moment, especially 2025, we are in a moment of, you know, easing of global financial conditions still, right? So that in a way helps out global flows into fixed income. So
the investor need to put their money.
They're going to look for bonds to buy.
And with higher yield.
Exactly.
It's the case of Romania.
So that in a way offsets some of the deterioration, right, in fundamentals. Like I said, you know, I mean, we've been writing about this for many months.
Are you optimistic about, let's say, the revival of economic growth in Romania? Right now, this year we have a stagnation.
Yeah.
0.6, 0.8. We'll see. But what is your estimate for the 2026?
Well, the case, we estimate a very gradual rebound.
Very gradual
rebound.
Why? Because we don't have the engine anymore?
No, because a lot, in terms of plan, a lot of the fiscal consolidation is actually taking place, you know, via expenditures, right? Which I understand, right? I mean, this is the problem for, you know, so many economies out there, right? You have a plan, you know, to consolidate 2% of GDP, right? Which is, you know, very draconian. That can be done via revenue enhancing, but revenue enhancing is very easy to say, is more complicated to do. It's doable, and I'm pretty sure that this government is in a position to eventually work on measures like this. But it's something that, you know, it takes longer, right, to see that.
But in the term of the figures, what is your estimate for economic growth in Romania in 2026? Do you have a new estimate with the new situation?
We think that, it's going to be, we are now close to zero. We think
Okay,
that, it's
yeah.
right. So, essentially we think that 2026, that we can see something close to 1%. But, it's a range. We're still working in a
Okay.
range. The important aspect here is to see, what is the fiscal multiplier as we see for the consolidation.
We have a very big current account deficit. Okay, do you think it's a problem for Romania right now?
Well,
It's near 9% of the GDP.
It is always a problem. It is always a problem. The twin gap is always a problem, right? Very simple terms, right? But that, if you add the fiscal gap with the current account gap,
But look,
this is how much you need to find out there to fall.
Yeah.
These are bondholders that need to buy your stuff, right?
Yeah.
Offshore investors, or local investors, you need to get this financing somewhere else. So that's a very important challenge, and we do believe that still, right? There was not only a 2025 thing, even with fiscal consolidation, Romania and other economies in Central Europe, they will spill. The Hungarians just revised their budget gap to 5% this year. So, we are in a situation where Ministry of Finance, they will have to be a lot more creative in terms of...
To do what?
To find, pockets of liquidity, right, in order to buy and to get the financing they need, right? So it's about, we are dealing, again, looking at the movie, right, over the past 4 years, 4 years, we are looking at a movie that we are dealing with, on an average basis, we are dealing with larger borrowing requirements in the region.
If you look at the, let's say, in the last 5 years, our budget deficit increased year by year right now, and let's say the public debt, it's up. Do you think right now Romanians have some problem with public debt?
Absolutely. This is an important, by the way, the the public debt, the larger that is, right, especially market public debt, it will, support, a higher interest bill.
Yeah.
That's another issue, right? Romania has a higher interest bill. And in a situation that the National Bank of Romania is not necessarily in a position to cut rates now, right? So, and that in an environment where nominal growth is still being impaired, right? So to your point, is not only the size of public debt, but what is the path of the public debt per GDP, right? And the path,
it's up.
Exactly.
Right now it's 25%, 55%, and will go to 70%.
And I think that's the challenge. That's the challenge. How to signal that, first of all, that you can control the peak, right?
Okay.
There's a peak that you can control the peak.
Will be in 2031 or 30.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the, let's say, you follow Romanian, what is the strength of the Romanian? In terms of geopolitical, economic, social, political.
Well, it's inserted in a region that has a natural integration with Europe, in a moment where European sentiment is going through an uplift, right? I think that this is very important. Europe is now in a situation where, comparing to the banking crisis, the European banking crisis in 2010, 2011, periphery is actually leading, like in terms of growth and sentiment, periphery is leading rather than dragging, right? It was the opposite anatomy, right?
Yeah.
Poland
and Romania was in the front.
Exactly. So I think that this is very important and very positive for the region, because that's where we can see, growth. These economies in the kind of the C4, right? They are, already naturally integrated, right? But going back to our discussion here, these are economies that they are in a very nice position because they have a natural integration. They have, they are still benefiting from EU flows, and to be honest with you, over the next couple of years, we are in this new cycle, so absorption of flows might actually accelerate, right? But they cannot turn their eye to the new economy and other international partners.
What is the main, let's say, in current situation, with all the war, with geopolitical volatility, What is the main threats for Romania right now?
The main threat, wow.
Yeah. Give me three.
Wow, three threats.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that it's the pull from emerging markets, right? So, I mean, now we have it's a situation. This year was very atypical, right? In the sense that we had maybe two or three regimes this year, right? I mean, we started this year thinking that offshore investors will drive away from the dollar. And then later on, we went back to U.S. exceptionalism. And now we are thinking, okay, what happens to AI? But it looks good. But, and tech, right? It looks amazing that that's a new economy surging. But, that can be valuation scares along the way, right?
Okay.
So
right now
I think
it's happening.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think that the number one challenge, in my view, is the broad dollar, right? We had a walk in a little bit of EM and Central Europe had a little bit of a walk in the park this year, right? I mean, it was a very well-behaved dollar, right? In the sense that it allowed currencies to perform really well because they are yielding more, right? So flows and financial conditions looser. People look for, fixed income assets to buy. They want to buy bonds, so they borrow RMBs. Right? The same story might not continue that positive next year. So I think that's one important aspect. So broad dollar might actually be a little bit more, I would say, more awake, right, than the dollar, we had, the weak dollar we had, especially in the first half of this year.
Okay. Second threat.
Second, I still think that, it's geopolitics, right? It's geopolitics. I mean, it's still a complicated stance. We had a very important call last year in our outlook, a correct call, saying, look, I mean, the Trump administration, peace or a ceasefire is going to be one important short-term target.
Yeah, with no results until now.
Exactly. So it was a good call. But, I mean, part of our call was saying, look, I mean, is the first innings of this process will be very positive, and we had that. But, it's still a complicated negotiation process with cessation of territory and everything else. So I think that, I mean, now, when I call, remember back then I call, the process might hit the wall, right? It looks like the process is kind of at least temporarily hitting the wall now, right? So I think that's still a challenge. That's still a challenge for Europe.
But do you think the war in Ukraine, it's a good event for Romania or it's a bad event?
No, it's obviously, it
geopolitical.
No.
My opinion, it's a very good event.
No, I think that
Romania.
I can tell you what I see where you're coming from. I see it can be good. It can be good in this rearrangement of powers.
Yeah.
Why? Because I can tell you, right? Central Europe will be the gateway for, and hopefully in a scenario of, peace, lasting peace, can be, the gateway for, FDI and reconstruction flows and everything else. Can be Poland, can be Hungary, Romania will be part of this.
Romania is the first country, NATO country, who is the nearest on the war field.
Absolutely. So I think this is, it can be, right? I'm not necessarily saying that the war was beneficial, but I mean, this new arrangement after the war, once we reach, I think that can be extremely positive.
Okay. And the third?
The third, well, I think it's like, general emerging market valuations, right? I mean, we are coming from a stance where the growth line was so low, and especially in Europe, right? Is Japan, right? I mean, over the past couple of years, right? So, I mean, we are in an environment where growth is actually being revised higher, right? And if we revise growth higher, we might revise inflation higher. And I think that, that can actually induce a rearrangement of flows here, right? I mean, let me give you an example.
One of the main threats for Romania is geopolitical flow of the money.
That's exactly right.
Because we have to finance
global flows in a new growth inflation stance that we are still trying to find. We haven't, right? We had the after COVID shocks, right? Which were high inflationary, you know, energy inputs. We normalized them, but then in the meantime, we are looking into, like, you know, if you look at our forecast, we are looking into so many jurisdictions with an upside growth forecast.
So the last question, do you have a good sentiment for the Romanian for the next year?
We do think that, you know, it is an environment where, you know, offshore investors continue to look at, you know, a return or an attempt of return to better fundamentals. I know, I mean, as we discussed in this interview here, you know, the challenges are huge, right? It will take time. But I do think that after, you know, the peaks of yields, the sell-off we had at the beginning of the year, I think that the story is turning to be more positive. I mean, but it's all about following the reform agenda, right? It's all about that.
Do you think the American, I mean, investor will coming back in Europe and in the region?
I think that they will be absolutely happy. This is the most transactional, you know, U.S. administration, right? I mean, it's, you know, irrespective of political, you know, attitude and political beliefs, right? I mean, it proved to be a very transactional. For as long there's a, you know, there's an upside for the U.S. administration, they will be absolutely happy. Look at the conversations, you know, the Trump administration had with other European leaders. Right, I mean, and with Hungary, for example.
Buy our products, American products, and we'll be friends.
I think that, you know, it is a transactional world, and we have quite a few years of that still.
Okay, thank you very much, Luis COSTA, Global Head of Emerging Market Strategy la Citibank. Cam atât a fost FL Live de astăzi. Ne revedem mâine de la ora 12. O zi bună în continuare.
Știu ce spun.
Angajații de la finanțe protestează față de măsurile de austeritate. El a fost votat, dar
Acum e vina românului.
E vină. Și e reacție.
Știu ce te interesează. Uite cum arde toată Europa și la propriu și la figurat.
Niște fenomene naturale.
Mor oameni în fiecare an. Decesele cauzate de poluare.
Știu cum să te fac curios.
A apărut telefonul care te scapă de telefon. Nu se poate face chestia asta și ca să te ajute să slăbești ceva invizibil.
Nu te mai duci la cumpărături, nu mai bagi în frigider, e gol tot timpul, e ca la fot.
Știu cum să te emoționezi.
Zeci de pompieri români vor fi în Franța timp de o lună în cadrul unui program european dedicat controlului incendiilor de vegetație.
Știu să convin. Italienii se plâng că le pleacă românii din țară și că îi lasă fără forță de muncă. Au început să ne ducă dorul.
Știi de ce?
Erau mai muncitori.
Pentru că românii, da, sunt destul de cuminți. După o săptămână începeți să vorbiți cu mâna și după 3 luni nu mai știți româna.
Știu să câștig.
Extraordinar de bine.
Știu, deci știu.